Guten Tag.
What language is that?
You don't know what language that is?
German?
Yep.
Mm.
From me ancestors.
Mine too.
Yeah, but we realized recently that we're mostly Scandinavian.
So you're a lie.
Well, no, we're still some German. I took German in junior high. It's honestly not a super pretty language.
It's not.
Sorry if you speak German.
Sounds like you're always angry. I wonder how you say I love you.
I don't
It'd
know.
probably be very
Could look
angrily
it up.
said.
I'll look it up real quick.
All right. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
No, it doesn't. But let's see how it sounds. Ik leeb dich.
I don't think that's right at all. Doesn't it have like a little
Hold
thing
on,
where you
hold
could say it?
Ik lebe dich.
Oh, that's yeah, that's not even pretty.
Ik lebe dich. That sounds kind of bad.
It does. That's weird.
Ik lebe dich. We're not going to take that any further.
Let your mind wander. Okay.
You perverts. Okay, we are here to talk about the moon and all the scandals that go with it.
Mm-hmm. The moon landing, not the moon by itself.
No, we're talking about the moon and how it's not even there.
Right.
It's like the Truman Show. That's what I believe. It's
so
not.
you can go ahead and jump on Elon Musk's bandwagon there. We're all in a simulation.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's interesting, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I think Elon, we just posted an Elon Musk quote on our Instagram.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a sad thought, but whatever.
In a way, though, even if you're Christian, oh my gosh, dogs are freaking out. Sorry if you heard that. In a way, though, even if you're Christian, it's kind of like a simulation, kind of.
I guess.
It's kind of the same frame of thinking, but no. So this one was kind of getting to some point. This was kind of a weird debate because it's honestly turned out not to be a debate.
Right, because Justin realized that all of his thoughts on the moon landing were debunked.
Yeah. Well said.
Thanks.
Well, so just to throw this out here, I honestly never was hardcore in believing that the moon landing was fake.
Oh, he was. He did like riots and
I was at NASA with no pants on.
No pants.
That's what you do in a riot. You don't wear pants.
And
wearing the least amount of clothes as possible with a sign.
what is that called? Why can I not think of that word? You were like
chanting.
And they're like marching like
da 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 da. It's chanting.
No, what is that called? What is the word when you're doing that? Oh, it's like a strike?
Well, it's not a strike.
Oh.
I guess, well, yeah, we're not like workers of NASA.
Well, anyway.
I never did that, but I was never a super hardcore. There was just some things that I've heard of. I blame Joe Rogan for it, honestly.
You can play Joan.
Joan.
Sorry, Joe.
If he ever became a transgender, that's what he would probably switch it to. Joan.
Joni.
I would be Justine.
If you can... All right, well, the joke's...
Let's just stop. But no, I've heard it talked about several times, and there are kind of, when you first hear these things, they seem legitimate. Like it's
I guess.
It's like, oh, that makes sense. You know? So like I could see how some of them made sense, but after reading, I started doing research, and I just realized, after actually doing research on this, I just realized there's no debate to be had. Like I would have to fake this debate. So Sarah and I, sorry if this isn't as entertaining, I think it's still interesting. We're not really debating it. We're going over the common myths of, in case you didn't know them. I don't think a lot of people do. Maybe they do. I don't know.
Yeah.
But as you read them, it's like, oh yeah, like that should, but then you read kind of why it's that way, and you're like, oh. And
I feel like you kind of get caught up in like conspiracy theories, and I don't.
I do. Yeah, I think that's from my family.
Oh yeah.
I love conspiracy theory stuff. Like, I just think it's fun and entertaining, and
yeah.
So.
I don't get caught up in all that unless you're watching the Tiger King, and I am totally caught up in.
Is that like a conspiracy theory though?
Well, Carol Baskin totally killed.
Oh, totally.
Her husband.
Totally. If you guys haven't seen The Lion King,
No.
I mean, oh my gosh, it's been
Easily
a long day.
mixed up. Those two. Very similar
They're
stories.
basically interchangeable if you haven't seen one of them. If you've seen The Lion King, you don't even need to see the Tiger King. Basically the same plot.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. I thought you were joking at first, and then you just kept talking.
No, I'm like literally crying. Okay. Oh, that like messed up my contacts. Where were we even going with that? I don't even remember.
I was just talking
if you
about
haven't seen The Tiger King, you should watch it. It's not like The Lion King at all.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Besides that, there's tigers in it.
And lions. And bears. All right, we're funny.
Is. We need to just get on track here.
Yes.
This might be a shorter episode. But yeah, anyways, Sarah's going to kind of lead the discussion because
I'm smart like that.
She's a natural born leader.
Yep. So I am.
Do you feel like you are?
It depends on the situation. Sometimes I don't really care. Yeah. But anyway.
Okay.
Not always.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay. All right. So first of all, we went to the moon. Apollo 11.
Hold on. I forgot to say before.
You always interrupt me.
I know. I just wanted to. Before, when we were doing our research, I wanted to put this out here because I just thought it was kind of funny. I found this article that I thought was gold on the internet, and because this was after I found out everything had been debunked, and I found it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like amazing. I read the whole thing. It was super long, and I told Sarah about this, but it probably took me, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes to read, which doesn't sound like a long time, but it is. And it was about this cameraman who came forward and was saying that he filmed it all. And he was this famous cameraman and whatever, and it was going into details, and it was so convincing. And he was going on how, all the things that people are concerned about with which we're going to go over. He said that they already took all those things into account, and it was very accurate. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I was like, this is what I'm going to use as my core in the debate. And I got to the very end of the article, and at the end, it ended up being an April Fool's joke. And I about threw my phone across wherever I was. I don't remember where I was.
You're at your parents.
Yeah. I was so angry. The author. Anyways, I just had to put that out there. So
Poor
that
thing.
would have been cool. I think it would be cool to have something. If anyone found anything, email us, because I searched pretty hard, and just literally everything that we're going to talk about is very debunked on the moon. Like, it's not even a debate.
Yeah.
At all.
I think because it's gone on for so long and I looked up, it's only 5% of Americans that truly believe that like we haven't been to the moon.
And all those people also believe that the earth is flat. Probably. But
yeah.
It is, they always say that you can find stuff that helps your argument on Google nowadays. That's honestly not really true with the moon landing, which you think it would be. You think there'd be lots of nuts out there that write all these crazy theories, but when you Google that, you guys should try. It's almost everything is just like debunk, unless that's the government just taking over Google on that.
Yeah.
That was a weird laugh.
I know. I know, when it instantly came out, I was like, that wasn't me. I don't know what happened.
Okay. Anyway, sorry. Just wanted to slip that in there. So.
Great.
Go ahead. I won't interrupt.
So I'm just going to start off with first, like how many times we actually went to the moon, because honestly, I thought, this is so sad, but I thought Apollo 11 was like kind of like the only one that went.
Well, that's what I thought.
Which had, Neil Armstrong and Buzz
Lightyear.
Yep. And Woody. Yeah.
To infinity and beyond.
I can't remember his last name. Anyway, so, Buzz Aldrin. That's his name. So that happened in 1969, and then we had 1971 with Apollo 14 and Apollo 15, and then 1972 Apollo 16 and Apollo 17. So there were quite a few people who went to the moon. There were 12 total astronauts who went to the moon and walked around on it. Neil Armstrong was obviously one of the first ones. So,
plus thousands of people that worked on it. What?
Worked on what?
Just at NASA. Like, they worked on it. They helped them send them to space.
I thought you were talking about they worked on the moon. Like,
oh.
I was like, what are you talking about?
No, I just meant, I feel like the theory would have more ground if only 3 men had been there. Or, do you know what I mean? Like, just
well, in each mission, 4 were sent, but only 2 got out and were on the...
Oh, that would suck.
I know. Isn't that kind of sad?
To the moon, it's like, Charlie, sorry, you got to stay back.
Yeah.
You were farting the whole way here. It's just not going to work out.
Maybe they play rock, paper, scissors on the way up. And
why does one have to stay in the shuttle?
2 have to.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe to make sure that
no
things go well.
aliens come and hijack the shuttle.
Exactly. That's right. I don't believe in aliens, though, remember? Okay.
Let's not bring that up.
Listen to our first episode. All right. So those were the missions from 1969 to 1972. And a lot of people are wondering, like, since 1972, like, why? Well, I don't know if a lot of people are, but maybe. Why haven't we been back to the moon? And that was one of your questions you had.
And you tell them why.
And I will.
Go ahead.
So from space.com, 40 years after moon landing, this is an article. Why is it so hard to go back? By Clara Moskowitz. I thought this was interesting. So for one thing, the goal this time around is like to get back to the moon is significantly expanded from the last time. The last time our goal was to be the first ones to the moon, and we were in this, race. So this is much more than like flags and footsteps, is what she said. So John Olson, director of NASA's Exploration Systems Mission Directorate Integration Office, that is a very long title, said, we're going for a sustained human presence in space. So they're not just going to like go to the moon, gather some things and come back. They want to like be there for a while and have people, eventually go to Mars and go further into space and be out there for a long time. So that's kind of the goal now. They said we want to do it cheaper and we want to do it safer. And that's a pretty tough prescription for NASA to meet. So, let's see. What else do they say? While engineering a return trip to the moon won't be easy, some experts say the biggest hurdle for Constellation is money. NASA is spending $35 billion to build Orion and the Ares 1. I don't know how to say that. Ares? Whatever.
That sounds fine.
The technologies that we need to do the job are largely in hand, Hanley said. In terms of the challenge, it's really a fiscal challenge, the amount of money that the nation can afford to spend. So during the Apollo years, NASA's budget was almost 5% of the federal budget. Now it's less than 1%. So we understand the technologies that will be necessary, but it's going to take an investment to do that, said Roger Lanius, who's, I don't know, he has a big, long title. Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum, a history curator. So that's kind of like the main reason is NASA doesn't really have the funding for it like it used to in the 1960s. And they know all the technology and stuff they need, but it's just a lot of money. And it's going to take more time.
Right now it's also kind of been there, done that.
Well, yeah, that's why they're wanting to.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? We've kind of already been there. We're going to shoot to Mars now.
Yeah.
And then Saturn.
Yep.
And then the sun.
And you will die if you go there.
Well, with that attitude, you will.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, we also just wanted to go over did you want to go over like the myths now? Kind of the common myths?
Yep.
So we're just going to kind of go over these and kind of cut this short, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because we still wanted to give people what they wanted, even though this isn't exactly what people wanted, I guess, because it's not really debate. But we wanted to go over the common myths, whether you've heard them or not. So I'm going to kind of just go over those. So the first one, and I think most of these are from Wikipedia, right?
No.
Or did you get this from a different source?
All of these are from space.com.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I found some that were from Wikipedia, and it was similar to this.
Okay.
Or maybe we can just trade off.
Sure.
Okay. So the first one is, but the flag is blowing in the wind, and there's no wind on the moon. The wind is clearly from a cooling fan inside the studio, or it was filmed on the desert. Okay, so when you first heard this, you're like, oh yeah, there is no wind on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
You little tricksters. So here's the explanation. This says, it isn't. After the flag is let go, it settles gently and then doesn't move at all in the remaining footage. Also, how much wind is there inside a TV studio? There's wind in the desert. I'll accept that. But in July, the desert is also very hot, and you can normally see heat waves present in footage recorded in hot places. There are no heat waves on the moon landing footage, so it wasn't filmed in the desert, and the flag still isn't moving anyway. That's actually different than what I read on Wikipedia.
Really? What'd they say? Well, this is a guy, Howard Berry, in his own article.
I heard that they had a metal rod inside the flag, so that's why it stood up, because they didn't want it hanging down. So
what do you mean that's why it stood up?
Like there was a rod inside the flag to keep it so it was like a rectangle.
Oh, interesting.
But he's saying that it falls down after the flag is let go. It settles gently and then doesn't move at all. I don't know which one's correct.
Well, this is footage. This is moon landing footage.
Oh, that's correct. So maybe people are talking about the photo.
Yeah.
But they still said on that page that there was a metal rod. If there was a metal rod, it wouldn't fall at all.
I don't know.
This is already falling apart. It is a conspiracy.
Apart. No, it's not.
I'd be interested to watch that, though, to see if it falls or if it stays up.
I know. Well,
or maybe they just put a rod in it. Maybe it was for the picture.
Maybe
that's what they were saying. They put the rod in it for the picture, so it was standing up.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because in the famous picture, I believe... I'm going to look it up, actually.
Yeah. All right, well, while you're doing that, I'm going to go on to the next one.
While I'm there, let me just tell you what I see.
Okay.
Yeah, so in all the photos, if you go on Google, yeah, the flag is standing up. Like it's standing up, but it's it's in the wind.
Let me see.
Well, I can't really. My computer's all hooked up to stuff.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, yeah. So I think maybe that's what it was. It was just for the photo.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, the next one says the lighting in the footage clearly comes from a spotlight. The shadows look weird. Yes, it's a spotlight. A spotlight 93, I don't know if that's million. It just says 93 M.
Meters. The sun is only
No. That one
away.
Makes sense. 93 meter miles.
I'm just kidding.
93 million miles away? I don't know.
It must mean something very far away.
Yeah.
Obviously not meters.
Yeah.
And more than miles.
Yeah. It's called the sun. Look at the shadows in the footage. If the light source was a nearby spotlight, the shadows would originate from a central point. But because the source is so far away, the shadows are parallel in most places rather than diverging from a single point. That said, the sun isn't the only source of illumination. Light is reflected from the ground too. That can cause some shadows to not appear parallel. It also means we can see objects that are in the shadow.
Mm-hmm. So lighting is also debunked, because if you do notice, the shadows do look kind of weird in the footage, but that makes sense.
Yeah, it's very scientifically proven.
It is. So the next one, they used the Apollo special camera in a studio and then slowed down the footage to make it look like there was less gravity. This one's really popular.
I like how they explain this one, because I was like, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. So this guy says some people may contend that when you look at people moving in slow motion, they appear to be in a low gravity environment. Slowing down film requires more frames than usual, so you start with a camera capable of capturing more frames in a second than a normal one. This is called overcranking. When this is played back at the normal frame rate, the footage plays back for longer. If you can't overcrank your camera but you record at a normal frame rate, you can instead artificially slow down the footage, but you need a way to store the frames and generate new extra frames to slow it down. At the time of the broadcast, magnetic disc recorders capable of storing slow motion footage could only capture 30 seconds in total for a playback of 90 seconds of slow motion video. To capture 143 minutes in slow motion, you need to record and store 47 minutes of live action, which simply wasn't possible. Well, this says it was from Science.
No, that's the next one.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. So that's obviously not possible, because the type of camera they needed in order to do that wasn't even capable of doing that back then.
Or was it not?
It wasn't. There was no Elon Musk, so he invents everything.
Just playing devil's advocate.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so this next one is from science.howstuffworks.com. I think that's that podcast.
No, that one's called Stuff You Should Know.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe they had a podcast. Okay, it says there aren't any stars in the background. I actually never thought of that before. I was like, oh yeah, there aren't any
That's
stars.
actually one I did find, and that I hadn't realized before, and I saw it, and yeah, I was like, oh, there isn't.
Yeah.
The explanation is
Makes sense.
makes sense.
So it says, unfortunately for conspiracy theorists like you, the nature of photography strikes down their argument. The light from the sun hitting the surface of the moon is too bright for any camera to capture something in the distance. It would wash out any light coming from distant stars in the sky. Even if you were standing on the surface of the moon yourself, you would have to block the landscape from your vision to see any notable points of light. This happens for the same reason that stars are harder to see in big cities than in wide open fields. There's a lot more light bouncing around from street lamps in the city, so the stars are hidden from view. Your best bet to see the countless number of stars in space would be to travel to the dark side of the moon.
Go Pink Floyd.
I was wondering, I was like, that sounds like a song. Wait, don't they sing that in Mulan, Ty? Mulan 2?
Wow. They sing Dark Side of the Moon in Mulan?
The dark side of the moon.
Oh. You're right.
I don't know the Pink Floyd one, but they say that phrase.
Yeah. Well, Dark Side of the Moon is an album.
Oh, cool.
Anyways, yeah. And this one, when you think about it also, like, how dumb would they have to be if that was actually a thing? To film it and then release it and then be like,
there's no stars.
Oh wait, there's no stars.
Crap.
And when you think about it, when you take a photo with your phone just on Earth and it's dark, you usually don't see the stars either.
It's even hard to get one with the moon to look good.
Yeah. So that one you just got to use your head. The next one is different shadow lengths. So this one says, scientists argue that the photos were taken on rough, hilly landscapes, which are bound to produce all kinds of wacky shadow lengths to no matter where you stand. If you take a picture on a snow-covered hill, for instance, the same kind of effect will likely take place. And then that one's obvious as well. But another big one that's actually not on here, which is one of the main ones that I heard a lot, was the rock that had a C on it.
Oh, yeah.
That one's, I'm surprised that one's not on here. Yeah. I thought you said you did. We were talking about it.
I thought I did. I guess not.
So yeah, that one, I feel like that's funny because that's the one I've heard the most, I think, is everyone says, and you can see it, In the footage, there's a rock, and it looks like the letter C. So people think, well, that's obviously from a studio, and they forgot to, like it's labeled Rock C. It goes here or whatever. So it was filmed, if that makes sense. But apparently, the C that appears to be on the rock is like a hair on the lens, because and it's from a recreated footage of the original footage. In the original footage, there is no C there.
Yeah.
So it came after the original footage when someone else filmed it or whatever, edited it, and there was some sort of just happened to be, because when you do look at the C, it's not nice, perfect C.
Yeah. I just feel like that would be like a really bad camera crew and everyone on set to like leave that
but
there.
I feel like that is something that could possibly, I mean, you think of the famous episode in Game of Thrones where there was a Starbucks coffee. Don't you remember that?
No, I don't.
Are you kidding me?
I don't remember that part.
That was one of the biggest things in the last season where, if you guys, I'm sure tons of people know what I'm talking about, when, oh my gosh, what's her name? Daenerys is sitting down at the table in Winterfell. There's a Starbucks coffee right next to her. So you can see it says Starbucks on it.
Did they do that on purpose? How could she not even notice that was there?
Exactly. It was a huge, well, they eventually took it out. But in the live airing, well, not live, but in the very first airing that went out, they missed it. So things are missed in movies all the time. And in major, major productions. You don't remember that?
Especially in Transformers. I mean, those are major productions, and the green screens are really...
Yeah. I feel like you're staring at me really weird right now. You're like... You look like you're in one of those stairs, but you're talking to me and it looks really creepy. You've been doing it for like the past 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, I didn't even
You're seriously like...
Oh my gosh.
It was started to
I also have something
really
like,
weird.
I think I have like a hair or something in my contact.
Your eyes look like they were watering.
They are. I think I have some hair in my contact, and
Sorry,
it's like
it was
really
like really hard for me
me
to concentrate on what I was talking about.
I'm sorry.
So,
Just getting emotional about what you're saying.
What was I just talking about?
You're talking about Daenerys in the Starbucks cup.
Oh yeah, there were lots of memes and stuff about it, but anyways.
Interesting. That's funny.
Interesting product placement.
Yeah, maybe they did it on purpose.
They're like, oops. So yeah, that's kind of it for it. It for y'all.
Man, we just really struggle.
It's been a rough day, honestly, folks.
Yeah, but
our little 4-year-old's driving us nuts.
It happens.
So, but anyways, sorry. It wasn't a debate. We still found it interesting, and we said that we were going to do the debate on the moon landing, and we still just wanted to put it out there.
Yeah. One of the things, really quick, that I thought was funny was I found this article, and it's called "Here's Your Proof That We Landed on the Moon, Steph Curry," and I was like, what the heck? That's such a weird title. And then I looked into it and realized that Steph Curry is one of those 5% of the people that really, truly didn't believe that we landed on the moon.
Excuse me. Well, I thought he took it back.
Well, he did only after NASA invited him to come look at like their moon rocks and like all this stuff at NASA. And so he did. And then a few days later, he was like, he made the comments in jest, is what he said.
In jest?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Like, I think like jokingly.
Oh.
Like the comments that like
jester?
I think. Like the comment like that he didn't, he was just joking.
Oh.
In jest. I believe that's what it means.
I've never heard that phrasing before.
Yeah, well. Yep, as a joke. It's old-fashioned.
Well, I mean, Joe Rogan was a really famous person as well that kind of strongly believed that we didn't go to the moon. And then he kind of changed his opinion on, I'm pretty sure we went to the moon, but these things are kind of weird. And that's kind of where I was at. I was kind of in that area of, I'm pretty sure we've been to the moon, but there are some weird things. But all the things, I mean, like I said, if anyone can legitimately find like that, like when I found that cameraman article, which was bogus, we do our research on this stuff, and I came up blank. I I feel like that's not common. So either the government is involved and taken down all the legitimate stuff on the moon landing, or it is everything's very debunked about it. So
I don't know. And then like all of these men who've been to the moon, like, were they just
there hasn't been that many.
12?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if that's a great
I
argument.
guess you're gonna like, okay, 12 people set foot on the moon. That means there were 12 more, so 24 people have been to the moon.
You think of The Bachelor. That's fake. They all keep their mouth shut.
Nope. Not all of them. There's been like 3 books written about what really happens on The Bachelor.
Well, there's been a lot.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of contestants on that.
Contestants.
What are they called?
They're called future Mr. and Mrs.
What?
I don't know.
They're contestants. It's like a game show.
Yeah. I don't
It's
really
more
know
of
what
a
they're called.
Game show than a reality show.
Yeah, I don't know.
Patriots?
No.
What were you going to say?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's all we have for you guys. We hope that was at least interesting.
Yeah.
Also, the podcast stuff you should know, they do one on this as well on the moon landing, which I listened to, and they do a really good job.
Yeah.
So go listen to that if you weren't satisfied with ours.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great happy Easter. It's Easter.
Oh yeah, happy Easter. Hope it was great.
Happy quarantined Easter.
Yeah.
We hope you're able to find hiding spots in your in your homes.
For what?
For Easter eggs.
Oh. Like if people want to play hide and seek or something on Easter.
To hide from your children.
And eat your chocolate.
Hide in your little corner and shove all the chocolate in your mouth.
All right, we're getting off topic. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.